Despite being let down by the original Dying Light, for reasons I'm still not entirely able to define, I am thoroughly enjoying the latest entry in Techland's zombie parkour franchise. In an honestly bleak landscape of repetitive, soulless open worlds, it'd be easy to consider Villador to be one of the many on the surface, but there is a certain delectable mix of spices in this three-course open world soup tasting, and I haven't seen enough people talking about it.
Presentation!
The way a world is presented to you sells any and all immersion you may glean from it. From rays of light shining through the trees and the knee-high grass swaying gently in the wind, to the rusted old-world appliances and the rotting flesh peeling off the infected, Dying Light 2 sells every aspect of its world. Maybe this is a bold statement to make, but in terms of the environmental fidelity, I believe Dying Light 2 may be the most beautiful game I've ever laid eyes on par with The Last of Us Part 2. There's a certain indescribable feeling of sprinting across the glittering rooftops of the loop and diving off the edge. You can practically feel the wind grace your ears as you are sucked into this fantastical, this tragic world. And of course, the graphical fidelity goes hand in hand with the environment design. The sprawling landscape feels entirely unique in every square inch, with not only roofs to run across, but interiors to explore. Now, I won't pretend like this is a perfect map, with every handhold handcrafted, but the sheer illusionry at work here to make you buy this world, buy Villador, completely pays off. Combined with the dynamic parkour obstacles and systems newly implemented, and you have, simply put, a recipe for success. But as anyone could deduce, this magical, modern medieval monstrosity of a map means nothing if it is empty. And with the constraints of the art form to keep your expectations in check, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how alive Villador feels.
I've tried it on like 20 Oompa Loompas, and each one ended up as a blueberry.
The map of Villador is absolutely overflowing with markers, exclamation points, and question marks. Undoubtedly, much of this is filler, copied content, but none of it feels intrusive. It's not getting in your way, gating your progress. It is just there to fill the world. Seeing groups of infected by a military convoy or a band of survivors huddled around a campfire as you sprint past makes the world feel lived in. To be truthful, it is not perfect. No open world game has really mastered making their worlds feel alive yet, but with the impressive draw distances to the zany characters you meet, Techland has a way of drawing you into Villador and sticking it in your memory.
Well, I'm a peanut bar, and I'm here to say your checks will arrive on another day. Another day, another dime, another rhyme, another dollar. Another stuffed shirt with another white collar. Criminals, Wall Street taking the pie, and all the black man gets is a plate of white lies. Prisons recruiting them, police bees shooting them, rap artists looting them, labels all diluting them. Barack Obama is scared of me, cause I don't swallow knowledge and I spit it for free. Let me clear my throat. Ha ha ha! I don't know what that was, I don't know what that was.
Now, all of these aspects of Villador are certainly impressive and contribute to the world feeling fun to be in, but by far the aspect of Techland's work that most impresses me and that I really want to focus on is the progression. Progression is essential to the enjoyment of any open world, and something I fear is often overlooked. Take a great game like Ghost of Tsushima, or in my opinion, a less great game like Days Gone, and you'll see that they both face the same issue. They have these gargantuan maps split into multiple sections, but ultimately through your 20 to 80 hour journey, not much changes. Maybe there are a few new characters or some new weapons that you get, but it is never enough to outpace the staleness that the gameplay loop is achieving. I believe that in terms of creating meaningful progression, both of my past examples failed. They ended up being carried by their core gameplay alone, never evolving or changing to create unique gameplay across their many hours. But Dying Light 2 is one of the few games I've played which manages to outpace boredom. The way I see it, the game has 5 main gameplay elements that Techland uses to pace out progression. There's the core gameplay, the skill trees, the city, the paraglider, and the grappling hook. You start the game with a foundational set of abilities, or the core gameplay. This part of the progression is well refined and enjoyable, but not enough to carry you through the dozens of hours in potential content offered by the game. While you are just starting out in Old Villador, the core gameplay is all you have, which is good because everything else in the game builds on it. You get time to learn the basics, and when you're ready to level up your experience, Techland is right there. Secondly in the progression is the skill tree. This might be a bit of an outlier because it carries through the entire experience, but I would argue that the most meaningful upgrades are only acquired with the first half of your skill points, the rest being less than game altering. So while this can vary, for me most of the meaningful skill progression was carried out in Old Villador. This fits perfectly with this system of progression because the players who go straight through the main questline will have mastered the core combat and parkour by the time they get to the city, and the ones who spend some more time in Old Villador are given bite-sized progression upgrades that will keep them improving, slowly adding to their arsenal until they are ready for the game to really begin. By the end of Old Villador, most people would be a little tired of the core gameplay, and this is where other developers fail. Techland still has 20 more hours to fill, and while in other games those hours might be a repetitive slog, in Dying Light 2 it is by far the best 20 hours of the game, for Techland still holds all their best cards. The city and the paraglider go hand in hand, not only because they are given at the same time, or because they create the deepest change to the status quo, but because they work completely in tandem. The city is such a massive breath of fresh air to the player. Where in other games you would have a second map, different from the first in no meaningful way, the city is utterly unrecognizable from Old Villador. The entire aesthetic, design philosophy, risk factor, and if you excuse my lack of a better word, vibes, were all unique from the previous section, and it felt reinvigorating. Parkour is all about creatively and efficiently navigating your environment, and with such a drastic shift in environment, not only is the core gameplay revitalized, but the change opens up so much opportunity for new ideas, new options, for the paraglider. Believe me, I was the deepest skeptic of the paraglider. I believed the fun of a parkour system lay in the intricate movement through tight spaces at dizzying heights, not just flying through the air and holding forward. But the paraglider opens up Dying Light 2 in a way I never thought possible. It gave Techland the opportunity to be as open and creative as they wanted with the city, and believe me, there was just as much enjoyable tight parkour as before, if not more. But more importantly, the paraglider never dragged down the movement of the game, instead flying around quickly and fitting in naturally to intense parkour lines. This combined with the wholly new location would most likely have carried the game to the finish line, but Techland had one last ace up their sleeve. Oh, the grappling hook. What is there to say? I'll admit I was initially disappointed. It felt janky, and the swinging felt slow, but as I practiced, I fell in love. The way the grappling hook opens up the parkour, and for that matter the combat, to unique and extremely powerful tech is just mind-blowing. It's like Techland said, you're almost at the end of the game, so here's the grappling hook. Break our game. Not to overstate how well the tool can fit into your parkour lines, extending a jump, swinging around a corner, or breaking a fall, but the grappling hook to me symbolized Techland taking off the training wheels. The entire sandbox is open, and if there wasn't before, there are surely now countless hours for you to enjoy along the road to mastery. Villador is beautiful. Villador is alive. Most importantly, Villador never gets old. I truly believe that despite the game's faults, what Techland has produced here is a masterclass in open world design. In a sea of Ubisoft-esque worlds with no soul, no planning, no intention other than to give you something to do, Dying Light 2 stands out as a shining example of how to keep your player engaged, how to keep them having fun. At the end of the day, that's what games are about, right? I know I had fun with this one. Throughout all 45 hours, it didn't get old. So I hope the Ubisofts of the world can learn from this, and we can all enjoy the fruits of Techland's labors. Thanks for watching.